Argentina is a country that is in a constant state of change, especially when it comes to money. So naturally, there have been a ton of changes to the money situation since the last time I made a video about money in Argentina 2.5 years ago. I have both good news and bad news for you. So what this video is not is a lecture on inflation, devaluation, or the potential dollarization of Argentina put forth by the new president, Milei. I am not an economist, and I'm not going to try to pretend that I understand all of the detailed and nuanced reasons for these changes. I am just going to explain to you, as simply as possible, the current state of affairs with how it affects you as a tourist or a visitor in Argentina. My name is Nikki, and I make videos about Argentina, and my goal is to help you, the potentially anxious traveler, try to understand and feel comfortable about everything before you arrive and as you continue your journey throughout Argentina. So let's start with the basics. What does the money look like? There is the 20, the 50, the 100, the 200, the 500, the 1,000 note, and the newest additions to the currency are the 2,000 note and the 10,000 note. If you watched my other video where I explained the difference between the official rate and the blue dollar, well, both of these still exist, but they have both increased a lot and are almost equal. Argentina has several different exchange rates, but those two are the main ones you need to know about, in addition to a third, the MEP rate. The MEP rate, or the tourist rate, is the exchange rate you'll get if you use your credit card. All three of these rates change slightly every day, but overall, there has been more stability in the rates over the past several months. As of the filming of this video today, the official rate is 1,056 pesos to the US dollar. The blue rate is at 1,220 pesos to the dollar, and the MEP rate is 1,181 pesos to the dollar. So as you can see, all three rates are pretty similar, with a difference of just a couple hundred pesos, which is really about 10 to 20 cents. Sometimes the MEP rate, or the credit card rate, is higher than the blue dollar, and sometimes the blue dollar is higher. But both the MEP and the blue usually stay higher than the official rate. Because all three of these rates are so similar, I usually find it easier to just think that one US dollar is equivalent to 1,000 pesos. It's not exact, obviously, but if I'm trying to quickly understand how much something costs, I just do it this way. So if something costs 23,000 pesos, I just think of it as $23, and it's close enough. So while we're talking about money, one of the things that you should spend a little money on before you come to Argentina is your travel medical insurance, for those just-in-case moments. I use Safety Wings Nomad Insurance. They have two main options, essential and complete. Safety Wings Essential Insurance is your basic travel medical insurance that has a $0 deductible, so you can make sure you're covered for even the smallest of claims. If you feel like you want fuller coverage, more comparable to a medical insurance you might use at home, then go for the complete. With the Essential, you can get additional add-ons for electronics theft that would cover up to $1,000 per stolen item, with a yearly limit of $3,000 per policy. Or the add-on that covers you for up to 20 different adventure and extreme sports. You can also start or stop Safety Wing insurance whenever you want. They're super flexible, so you're not locked into a certain number of exact months. The pricing is also really competitive, so it ends up being just a few dollars a day. If you have any questions or issues with your travel medical insurance, just reach out to them directly. Make sure to click the link in the description below to find out more about Safety Wing. So in my last video, I really stressed the importance of needing cash money because it allowed you to basically cut your expenses in half. That is no longer the case, which thank God, because dealing with Western Union all the time can be really annoying, if I'm being honest. This is the good news. Because the rates are almost the exact same, you can use a credit card and you don't have to stress so much about having cash on you at all times. That said, you still do need to have some cash. If you're charging your Sube card, you need cash. If you're charging your Claro SIM card, you need cash. The same goes for giving tips as well. You need to have cash. A lot of restaurants and cafes will only charge you for the total on the bill on your credit card, and you will still have to to pay the tip in cash. They will not add the tip onto the credit card. So yes, you still need to use the Western Union to have some cash on you, just not as much. And you should still remember to bring a backpack when you go pick up your money, because you just never know if they will give you it in stacks of 1,000 notes or 10,000 notes. I mean, imagine having $500 in $1 bills. That won't fit in your wallet. So bring a bag to put your cash in it and take home. Don't walk around the streets with that kind of money more than you have to. Arbolistas do still exist. They're people who will exchange your USD for pesos. They generally exchange on or close to the blue dollar of the day. Sometimes they come to your home, or sometimes they have an office and you have to go to them. In my experience, they've always been super honest and upfront and make a point of counting out the money in front of you. So you can ask your hotel concierge about this, or a local if you have a local friend. Almost every Argentinian has a contact for an arbolista. The same goes with the Cambio guys. They're still around in the main tourist centers like Calle Florida in Buenos Aires. I personally don't like to use them just because it feels a little bit more sketchy, but if you're comfortable with doing that, then it's always an option. In my last money video, I also told you not to take money out of ATMs, and honestly, that is still the case. It might seem like no big deal now since the official and the blue rates are so close, but if you're not a member of the bank, then it's unlikely you'll be able to take more than 60,000 pesos or $60 out of an ATM at one time. Not only that, but they charge exorbitant fees like 10 to 12,000 pesos per transaction. And in some places, the ATMs seem to be completely empty of money, like in Iguazu. We actually got desperate in Iguazu and we needed some cash from the Western Union, but they had closed early and we couldn't find a single ATM in all of Puerto Iguazu that had money in it. Now let's talk a bit more about using credit cards in Argentina. This is huge news. Previously, using a credit card would only get you the official rate, but now you can use a credit card and get the MEP rate, which is very similar to the blue dollar. This makes things massively more convenient, less stressful, and less worry about having cash all the time. I use my credit card almost all the time here now. And digging a little deeper, the best credit card to use is a Visa. It is accepted everywhere, plus you can get those travel points too, and the MEP rate is applied instantly to your statement. The second best, I would say, is MasterCard, which is also accepted in the majority of places where you pay with a card. The worst card to have is an American Express. I've used mine only a couple of times here. Sometimes American Express is not accepted at all, and if it is, the MEP rate is applied late. So that means using my American Express card, I'll get charged the official rate, and then a few weeks later, I'll get a refund on my statement for the difference between the official and the MEP rate. In some places in Argentina, they might charge you an additional 5 to 10% for paying with a credit card. Some places will even give you a 10 to 15% discount for paying with cash or efectivo, a debit card, or a bank transfer. But a bank transfer you can only do if you have a bank account here in Argentina and if you have a DNI. Bigger supermarkets will usually just charge you the price, and they never add on any additional percentage for using a credit card. The same goes with most restaurants and some cafes. I've only seen the extra 10% charge in smaller cafes, kiosks, or small shops. There's also usually a sign stating whether or not they'll charge you extra for using a credit card, or if they'll apply a discount for using cash or a debit card. Also, contactless payments are super common, so you'll definitely be able to pay with Apple Pay or the equivalent on your phone at most places. Every once in a while, like for example at La Anónima supermarkets in Patagonia, they'll ask for a physical card. But other than that, I usually pay with Apple Pay here. So I told you at the start of this video that there would be both good news and bad news. The good news is that you can pay with a credit card and dealing with money is so much easier than before. But the bad news is that prices have increased a lot. A couple of years ago, I could get a coffee for around 350 pesos, which was the equivalent to about $1.50, $2. Now the average price for a coffee, like a latte or a cappuccino, is around 4,000 to 5,000 pesos, sometimes more, especially in Patagonia. And 4,000 to 5,000 pesos is the equivalent of $4 to $5. I used to be able to get a steak and a glass of Malbec for the equivalent of $7. Now that same steak is around $25. $5. In some touristy areas, I have seen the prices increase drastically. For example, the main Parrilla grill in San Telmo Market now charges 60,000 pesos, which is $60 for a steak. 2 years ago, I could ride the bus and the subte for around 15 to 45 pesos, which at the time was like 7 to 20 cents. Now the subte costs 750 pesos, which is around 75 cents. The fares for city taxis in Buenos Aires have also increased drastically, especially compared to ride-sharing apps like Didi and Uber. For example, I took a taxi from Retiro Station to Palermo, and it cost me $18 on a city taxi. That same fare on Didi was $5. While prices have increased all across the country, it still holds true that the further north you go, the lower the prices, and the further south you go, the higher the prices. I've spent time in both Salta in the north and Patagonia over the last few months, and I've seen both places firsthand. Patagonia has always been more expensive about prices, but now they are ridiculously high. It is probably one of the most expensive places I've ever traveled in my entire life, and in some places way more expensive than places in the US. Now, having all of this information, I'm sure you probably have a few more questions. So one of the most common questions that I get asked is, how am I supposed to get from the airport to the city if I don't have any cash? And it's a really good question, and you do have a few options. You can take a Didi or an Uber because you can pay with your credit card that is already on file on the app. You can also organize a ride on the Tienda Leon bus shuttle and pay for it online in advance, but it will not take you door to door. You can also arrange a private driver in advance, which I like to do when I'm arriving on an international flight because, you're just really tired when you arrive. So I always suggest Emilio for this because he's super honest and he's a great guy. His phone number is listed in the description below this video. If you want to arrange a ride with him, just contact him on WhatsApp. And if you speak Spanish, that's even better. Another common question I get is, how much money do I need in cash? And this question really depends on how long you'll be here. You just have to remember that however much cash you have in pesos, you must spend it all before you leave the country. It is worthless outside of Argentina, and nobody will exchange it for you in the US or Europe or a lot of other places. Maybe in Chile or other neighboring countries, but definitely not in the US. That means you also can't get Argentinian pesos in advance to bring into the country before you come. Argentina pesos stay in Argentina. The answer to how much cash you need is really a delicate balance. If you send yourself money in Western Union, you'll be paying a fee for each transaction, except for the very first transaction, which they usually give to you for free a lot of the times. You can always send yourself more cash if you need it, but keep in mind that you will be paying a fee again each time for each transaction. But if you still have cash left by the time you're leaving, I guess you could just buy a bunch of souvenirs from the airport or eat a really fancy meal at the airport. One thing I like to suggest is to bring some USD with you just in case. If you don't use it, then you just bring it back home with you, put it back in your bank account. No big deal. But in case you get stuck and need cash right away, then you'll have it available to do as an exchange. Just make sure that the cash you bring is in $100 bills only, no 20s, no 10s, and it has to be the newer kind with the giant face of Benjamin Franklin. They can have no cuts, no rips, no tears, no watermarks, no stains of any kind. They must be perfect and crisp, or people won't accept them for exchange. So that is basically it. Even though I know there's a lot of information to take in, this update was a long time coming since the money situation has changed so much in Argentina over the past couple of years. So if you're planning a trip to Argentina and you're feeling overwhelmed by all of this and you've never transferred money before through Western Union, then make sure to watch this video where I walk you through each step and make you feel much more comfortable. Why not?